Okay, so transpiration is the loss of water vapor from the leaves of a plant, all right? Um, and that is a question that they sometimes like to ask. But the other thing is that it's important to separate it from the transpiration stream. So transpiration, the process itself, is the loss of water vapor from leaves, and that happens through the stomata. Okay, and so when more stomata are open, such as when it's doing photosynthesis because it wants to take in, the plant wants to take in carbon dioxide, then you're going to get a greater amount of transpiration. When the stomata are closed at night, because the plant is not doing photosynthesis, the idea is that one of the reasons that the stomata are closed during the night is so that you don't have the loss of water. Okay, but this is so transpiration is the loss of water from the leaves. The transpiration stream is the movement of water from the roots of the plant all the way up to the leaves. Okay, so I wrote that all out for you. The idea is that the stream is the movement of water and occurs in the xylem from the roots to the plant leaves, and the transpiration is the actual loss of water from those leaves via the stomata. Now, and the transpiration stream happens because the water vapor is leaving, and so what that does is it pulls up the water from the roots, and it acts like a giant straw. So the idea that you're losing water vapor here in the leaves actually is what causes the movement of that water to be taken, to move from the roots against gravity and up into the leaves. Um, and so you should be able to describe that. The idea is that the water is initially taken in, it enters the, this is the transpiration stream we're describing. So the idea is that the water enters the root hair cells via osmosis, okay, because the water potential in the root hair cells is lower due to the idea that due to the fact that the hair cells are taking up various minerals such as phosphates and nitrates and things like that via active transport. And so the concentration of ions or minerals in the root hair cells is higher, which means the water potential is lower than in the soil, and so the water is going to enter via osmosis. So the water enters the root hair cells via osmosis. It then moves into the xylem, okay, again, um, via osmosis. So it enters the xylem. And then from there, it travels up through the stem and into the leaves. And then it will leave in the leaves. So it exits the xylem. And it exits the xylem into from the vascular bundle in the leaves, which I think we've already talked about. And so the idea is that it enters the spongy mesophyll cells or the palisade cells, usually the spongy mesophyll. And from the spongy mesophyll, it then evaporates. Okay, so in the leaves, it exits the xylem, and then the water evaporates. And so that's where you get the water vapor in the transpiration stream. All right. It evaporates from around the cells in the spongy mesophyll. And now that we're talking about, so that becomes water vapor, and then the water vapor then diffuses out of the stomata. So it's a diffusion at that point, right? All of this until the evaporation. So these are all osmosis, okay? And then once it evaporates, then the idea is that the water vapor diffuses out. Out of the leaf through the stomata. I'm just going to say through the out of stomata. Okay, and so that's what this is. So the idea is the transpiration stream is this whole process here. Okay, and then this last part, the actual the loss of water vapor from the leaves through the stomata, which happens via diffusion, is the transpiration itself. Now, there are several factors that you should know that can affect the rate of transpiration, and you should know why. So I'm going to write that in. So the factors that are affecting that affect transpiration. Oh, did I put two N's in that? Good. Okay. Factors that affect transpiration. The first one is the light intensity. And the light intensity affects transpiration by basically the higher the light intensity is, the more transpiration you will have, or the faster transpiration will go. the increased rate. And that's because as you increase light intensity, you're actually more stomata will open. So there's simply more surface area for the water vapor to diffuse out. Okay, so more transpiration, and I'm going to, because more stomata are open. Although at some point, of course, all the stomata are open that can be open, or all the stomata are open that there are in the leaf. And so increasing the light intensity past that will not increase transpiration anymore. Okay, so that's the first one. The second one then, doesn't matter what order you go in, is humidity. And basically, humidity is how much water vapor there is in the air outside the leaf. And so the idea is that as you get an increase in humidity, you're actually going to get a decrease in transpiration, because the idea is that transpiration happens via diffusion. And so the more water vapor you have outside the leaf, the smaller the concentration gradient there is. So because the concentration gradient difference is smaller, the concentration gradient is smaller. Okay. The other thing that can affect it is wind speed, and this is actually the opposite idea of humidity. And so as you increase wind speed, you're going to get a increase in the rate of transpiration as well. And that is, again, due to the same idea, the fact that it's diffusion. If the wind, as soon as the water vapor exits the leaf, the wind blows it away, then that's going to mean that there is less water vapor in the air. And so the concentration gradient, instead of being smaller, is going to be larger for wind speed. The last factor is temperature, and this one hopefully makes sense. Again, with diffusion, the idea is that the higher the temperature, the more transpiration you're going to have, because the molecules are simply going to move faster, so they're going to diffuse faster out of the stomata. You get more kinetic energy in the water molecules. So you also get an increase in transpiration there. Okay, so those are the 4 factors that affect the rate of transpiration. Right, and next I'm going to make a little video talking about the potometers, which are potometers are a tool that we use to actually help measure the actual rate of transpiration. What is the transpiration rate?